Money Radio, discussing the business of making and spending money.
What was imported. In fact, what was imported into Nigeria in petroleum products over the past 5 years amounts to $43.5 billion more in imports than Nigeria exported. So, to discuss the important issue with me today, it's Mr. Anthony Uko, our delectable in-house analyst. Mr. You're welcome.
Thank you.
Yes. So you agree with me that is an important issue and it's a touching one. That Nigeria exports petroleum products, mainly crude oil. And over the past 5 years, Nigeria has imported $43.5 billion more petroleum products than she has exported. That is a deficit, a huge deficit. And if you want to say how much yearly, divide 43.5 by 5, and you get close to $9 billion trade deficit. In terms of naira, over the past 5 years, we're talking about 18 trillion naira. 18 trillion naira is almost half of Nigeria's annual budget. No, it's more than Nigeria's annual budget.
This year is almost the same as this 22.
In fact, it's more than over the past 5 years. It's we're talking about more than the 2022 budget because it's 17.197 trillion, 127 trillion naira. So that is a huge deficit. So, how does this make you feel, first of all?
It's very saddening because, for one, the issue of crude oil, we've been around it for a long time. Nigeria has abundance of crude oil, and one would think that issues surrounding crude oil, we would have kind of found a better way of managing their resources as a country by now. Nigeria has a very huge population. So when it comes to consumption of petroleum products, we have a very huge market. And so Nigeria in itself should be Nigerians should be Nigeria's priority market.
Yes.
In selling its petroleum products.
You make a fine point there.
And that is not the crude that comes without any form of value addition, like we've been selling since crude oil was discovered in this country, but the refined products that will not only give Nigerians the products to use for our businesses and our homes, but will also spiral into so much economic benefits, like creation of jobs, like providing the necessary provision of infrastructure, the monetary benefit that comes with it, for provision of the much needed infrastructure for economic development and all that. And then spilling down into providing raw materials for other sectors of the economy. So for us to still be dancing around this issue at this time in Nigeria's history, it's really a very sad news. scenario?
We're talking about 1958. That's when crude oil was discovered, right? So we're talking about 6 decades now since Nigeria discovered and has been exporting the same product, crude oil, crude oil, without any serious value addition, as you mentioned, and that product, which is supposed to be an asset, is in fact, in a way, if in a way, there's no benefit derived from it because if you are having this, which is supposed to be an asset, as we're having deficit trade in it,
Yes.
to that tune,
Mhm.
it's a huge one. Yes. So why has that been?
To me, the
The lack of investment.
the major reason for this would be the fact that our the oil exploration aspect of the crude oil this thing, has been handled mostly by foreigners.
Yeah.
The foreign big shot oil companies,
Yeah.
they've been the ones largely in charge of exploring oil, crude oil in Nigeria. And what they are more concerned about is exploring the crude and selling the crude, exporting the crude. And it's it would be like the policymakers' prerogative to ensure that this asset that Nigeria has, that it's able to get the best from it for the country and for Nigerians. But over the years, it's the will, those oil companies, international oil companies that dominate the exploration space, the offshore space, they've been holding sway, and government has not been able to put their feet down and insist that some of that projects, infrastructure be put in place that would um, go beyond just simply exploring this oil and selling it raw out there and then giving Nigeria the chicken fee and then going out. They have refinery mechanisms in their own countries, many of
Yes.
this.
Yes.
They have the refinery mechanism, the structure, infrastructure put in place. So what they simply do, take out the raw material from Nigeria, ship it out as raw material, there's nothing extra added, no extra value for Nigerians. And then they take it out there, refine it and bring it back to us. And then we are their major markets.
Imagine that.
So Nigerians are still their major markets. So they take it raw, take it to their country, refine it, get all the extra value addition benefits that far outweighs the crude itself, then send the refined product back to us at very exorbitant prices, and Nigerians are paying for it. And then because this is Nigeria's major product, the government wants to ensure that, okay, to an extent, let the people have a feeling that oil is from here, so we can't afford to let them pay so much for it. So the price is regulated, and over the years, the government has been shackled with issue of subsidy, which has been draining government coffers and then enriching some other people's purses.
So in a way, this product is actually benefiting just a few
A
persons
few persons.
because it's hardly contributing to, you may say, infrastructure You know, the oil industry employs just a few persons,
Yes, and most of them expatriates.
expatriates. You know, to quote 90, Nigeria, for example, exported. Let's take a sample year in 2019, because we know that between 2020 and now we have been having this distortion with
Yes,
the COVID-19. So let's take 2019 for example. In that year, Nigeria exported crude oil to the tune of $48 billion. But it may surprise you. In fact, I don't think it surprises you because you are in that area, but it may surprise our listeners that the oil companies actually take 65% of that amount, which is they take 65%, and then Nigeria takes 35%. So, what came to Nigeria in 2019 as revenue from the oil industry was just about 16 billion. 16 billion. And that is how it is. That is the contract. The oil companies actually export that amount. And they get 65% out of it. Nigeria takes 35%. And just to divert a little bit, the companies actually, the indigents actually suffer. But they suffer more because of all those villages and all of that.
Yes.
But let's not go into that. That is another issue for another day. Yes. But we see that actually there's actually little value being added, because when we talk about vertical addition, it's just a few in that industry. But even in the oil industry itself, we talk about horizontal value addition, it's not there. How? The same thing you have been talking about. There is hardly investment going on in that industry. And because there is hardly investment, the country is not able to produce or to add value to that product.
Mm.
And that lack of value addition is what makes us to bring in refined oil or refined petroleum products into the country, which is expensive. Things have to change. What has to change?
We've already pointed that out. There needs to be investment in local refining. And when we talk about local refining, it brings us to the issue of Nigeria's moribund refineries. If we
That alone also is another deficit. Because
another deficit.
how much has been pumped into that local refinery over the past, say over the past 5 years or 10 years?
A lot. The refineries have become a sinking hole because the NNPC every year comes up with a figure that it's putting into the refineries as turnaround maintenance. Staff are being kept year round
For doing nothing.
For doing nothing, and then at the end of the day, nothing is being refined. For the past 2 years or more, 100% of Nigeria's petroleum product consumption, especially petrol, has been imported, and solely by the NNPC.
So, this is another issue we are going into, and it brings a little bit of heartbreak. So, I would like us to take a breather to prepare our hearts and our listeners' hearts for what we are about to talk about. Let's take a short break. We'll be back. When we come back, we discuss more about this issue.
For sponsorship and advert placements, please contact 080-3688-6158. Last Word Leadership Podcast Studio. You have the last word.
Money Radio, discussing the business of making and spending money.
You're welcome back, viewers in Nigeria and in the diaspora. We are discussing this issue about Nigeria's petroleum industry deficit over the past 5 years. In the studio, discussing that with me is still Mr. Anthony Kuko, and I'm your host, Case Hammond. So, Mr. Before we went, you were talking about an issue, the NNPC being the sole importer, and we're talking about the sinkhole in the petroleum industry. I'm talking about the downstream industry. Hardly has anything been added. Hardly has there been value addition. And there has been a report that Nigeria is the only OPEC member country that is not producing our own oil. In fact, refining our own oil. And at the time, a local newspaper reported that 65% of Nigeria's oil was being exported to the Ivory Coast here for refining, and then that was in the early 2000s, late 90s, early 2000s. And 65% of Nigeria's oil was being exported to the Ivory Coast for refining, and then brought back to the country for sale. There is another demo application here. This is a country that is right here in West Africa. If you want to move, yes, if you want to, Ivory Coast produces oil, but there are a number of countries that don't produce oil, but refining is a part of their business. Yes, refining is a part of the business, and these are the countries. I can give you examples, including a place like Liberia. They have an oil refinery there. A number of countries, they have oil refinery business, but they don't produce oil. So they too import crude oil.
Not, because if they've done the cost benefit analysis and found that it is cheaper for them to buy crude,
yes,
and refine for their citizens than to buy the refined products. When you refine the products in your own country, like all the value added that we mentioned earlier, it accrues to the economy and the people there.
Yeah,
it creates jobs for them.
It does.
Yes, and so when and then at the end of the day, they still have the market. It's not as if they will refine the product and then be looking for who buys the product of them. So when that is that's people, countries that don't have oil benefiting from an asset they don't have, while the country that has is not able to maximize the benefits that will come from that.
You know what baffles me about this whole issue is, in elementary marketing, when you want to do investment, you do a research as to whether there is a market for this product you want to sell out there. And once you make sure that that research is clear, that you have that market and the pricing is okay, it is like you have done half of the job, and it's just to produce that product, and the market is there. The market is in Nigeria. We're talking about 200, and according to World Bank figures, Nigeria's population right now is 212 million. So if we're talking about market, this is where the market is. What has stopped this government from actually investing in this industry? And when you look at, let's go further afield. There are some countries that started with the oil business, but they have actually added so much value, and they have grown outside. They have grown bigger than the oil business and gone deeper into, or the oil industry has actually propelled them, has been a springboard for them to go into other industries where they invested their oil proceeds, and they have gone. Take for example Malaysia. Malaysia, about 10 years ago, Malaysia was no, not yeah, some 10 years ago, Malaysia from our oil industry was producing something like, with all the value additions, yes, was producing something like what Nigeria produces, right? No, it was producing something like 32 billion, or was earning something like 32 billion from the oil industry. Now that value is reducing in the oil industry. What Malaysia exports right now is something in the neighborhood of close to 250 billion from exports, and that is because they use oil proceeds to invest in other sectors of the economy, so other industries of the economy, including agriculture. They invested in IT. They invested in a host of other things. And just name it. They are making a kill of what they got out of the oil industry. But instead, in Nigeria is supposed to be so much, you know, bound to this oil industry and not adding value.
Yes. In fact, beyond the issue of not improving the crude oil itself, the discovery of oil kind of made the economy so dependent on this monoproduct that to the exclusion of all other um, all other natural resources that the country has.
Yes.
We know that before the discovery of oil, there was agricultural products that were revenue foreign exchange earners for this country even before oil was discovered. We have cocoa in the south, we have the groundnuts in the north, we have the palm oil in the east, and then so many other natural resources. We have coal, so much bitumen.
Yeah.
The list is just endless. Right now, Nigeria has over 450 natural resources that have been minerals, solid minerals that have been, as in, that are known and documented in various parts of the country, which if it were being exploited and developed along with crude oil, this country would be one of the most developed. But Nigeria has just focused all its attention on crude oil, excluding every other sector.
So in a way, oil has revealed the potential of other resources and other economic activities. So with that, can you say oil is a cause? Discuss.
Oil in itself is not a cause because it's a natural resource and it has its benefits. It's what has resulted in the cost situation that Nigeria is currently finding itself has been the inability of government and policymakers to be able to come up with policies that will adequately utilize this very important resource to the utmost benefit of Nigeria and Nigerians. So, over the years, of course, refineries were built, and they've become run down, they've become obsolete, and over the years they were not maintaining them. Because if they have been maintaining them right from the beginning and not just running them like that without any form of maintenance, they wouldn't have broken down to the point that right now they are now sinking holes that they pumping so much money. And then there's this it's been mentioned that a past president had said Nigeria is making so much money from crude oil that he doesn't know what to do with it. So it's like Nigeria got carried away with the resources, with the money, the way the money came in from crude oil, that even though Nigerians visit other countries and see how the economy run, they just got blown away. It's like our leaders then did not have a plan in place, a strategy in place to be able to utilize the resources, like you pointed out with Malaysia, that was able to, okay, at the beginning, even if at the beginning we had exported crude oil, there's nothing wrong with that, earn income, and then use it to diversify the economic base of the country, use it to develop the other natural resources and create other industries, and put in place a structure that will boost the economy generally. But so that is where we are still at right now. And unless Nigeria still goes back to do what it would have done all those years ago at this point, then it's a point that the country will continue to over around without a vicious circle, without a way making progress.
Is it late?
It's not late. It's not late. It's just that right now with the current global energy transition, it will be difficult. So it means that Nigeria, the policy makers, the regulatory authorities, they would have to be much more resolute than they would have been to bring to achieve much results. And we still look at it. This still takes us back to the spending pattern that we have, especially with our budget right now, where the bulk of government spending
It's on
is
recurrent
still on
expenditure.
recurrent expenditure, and with shortfalls in revenues. At the end of the day, most of the capital projects
Abandoned.
are abandoned.
Yes, because
So-
the government we hardly enjoy budget surplus. It's always
Yes,
budget
it's
deficit.
always budget
And that
deficit.
deficit is where it's the infrastructural projects, the capital projects that suffer that deficit. That's where the abandonment is, not the recurrent expenditure, because you can't owe your workers.
Your workers.
I am one person who believes that transition, that energy transition, is not going to be as quickly or as early as we are expecting. I think there is still time, at least the next 20, 30 years. I think we still have that time. Let's hope that in the private sector, like we see in Dangote refinery, hopefully that is coming on stream this year. Let's hope that this trend will be reversed, and that kind of deficit, which is close to $9 billion per annum, will be reversed, and Nigeria will have something to show for her oil. Yes. That's how we wrap it up today on Morning Radio. You have been on to the National Economy segment of the program on the Leadership Podcast. In the studio with me has been our analyst, our in-house analyst, Mr. Anthony Mpuko, and I think you have done justice to this topic. Thanks to our producers also, but our biggest thanks go to you who follow us loyally. And to all of you who are joining us for the first time, we say thank you. And this is the program where you ought to be. It's always our pleasure having you. Until then, I remain your host, Case Hammond, but my last word for you is COVID-19 is real. Go and get your jab. Stay safe and stay blessed.
Thank you for watching. For sponsorship and advert placements, please contact 080-3688-6158. Last Word Leadership Podcast Studio. You have the last word.